you check the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Marcia Parker.
And we are here to review the brand new release that is also the finale of the new trilogy called Halloween Ends. Here we go.
It ended.
It did end. Did it end? Yeah. I mean, yes. We can't spoil anything in this review.
There's a start and a finish.
There is perfect. Yep, that's exactly what I was referring to as well. So yes, we are going to keep this review spoiler free, and then we are going to record a separate spoiler review. So we won't even do a spoiler section in this one, but we will do a spoiler review separately. This review may not go that long, you guys, because unfortunately we seem to be in another position just like the last film where we, out the gate, we're not fans. Not fans. I mean, I'll speak for myself. We'll do the overall thoughts, then the story, the acting, the effects, all that good stuff in turn as usual. But I will say that this was... I mean, the decisions made in Halloween Kills were confusing to me, and it made a very bad movie. The decisions for this one were even more baffling. And somehow Halloween Kills to me is more of a Halloween movie than this. This is the least Halloween movie of all of them, in my opinion. That's where I'll leave my overall thoughts. Marcia?
Yeah, I agree with you that it was very confusing with the choices that they made. And it really didn't feel like a Halloween movie at all. I wasn't expecting much, given like I wasn't very thrilled with a lot of what was going on, but I was still hoping for some fun stuff. I mean, it's the end. It's going to be, Michael Myers versus Laurie Strode. Like, this is it. And then we got what we got. So...
Fizzle.
I mean, it was straight up in the beginning, like... The musical choices were super confusing and it threw me for a loop. And the story started strange and it just kept...
It did start off on a very rough foot for I think both of us.
Yeah.
Especially.
Yeah.
If you're anything like me, and if Marcia had the same reaction that I did, the first scene of the movie, which again, we're not going to spoil, but what happens really put me off.
Yeah.
Like, immediately put me off.
Yeah.
And there's reasons why. Once you see it, you'll understand if you're familiar with either of us and perhaps our personal lives outside of the channel. But yeah, the first part of the movie really put me off. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, okay. I mean, this movie's got an uphill battle to climb already for me. But, I'll just try and separate myself from what happened here and we'll see what happens next. And, it just never recovered for me. What they did at the beginning was its own thing. It's not like I held it against the movie the rest of the way. The rest of the movie was just disappointing in its own right.
Yeah.
So story-wise, though, let's get into it. We'll be very, quick about this, and we're not going to give away anything more than what was in the trailers. And that is that it has been 4 years, apparently, since the first two films, which happened on Halloween night 2018. The timing of the film, the time frame of the film is a bit confusing.
It was confusing for me. I was trying to calculate halfway through the movie.
Truly the only reason,
Halloween or is this not Halloween?
Yeah, truly the only reason I knew it officially took place 4 years later is because I knew that pre-production wise.
Okay.
That they were saying it's supposed to take place 4 years later.
Yeah.
So, if they let us know in a lower third somehow, neither of us saw it. There was one early on that said something and then nothing really after that. So it got a little confusing, but nonetheless, it's 4 years after the events of the last two films, and largely Laurie and Allison have moved on with their lives. And I actually really kind of enjoyed the first half hour of the film, to be honest with you. While I was watching it, I was like, this doesn't feel like a typical Halloween movie, and I'm kind of here for it. They're spending time developing the characters. There's so much more character development for Allison and even for Laurie in this than there was in either of the last two films.
True.
That I was actually on board. I'm like, okay, I'm liking this. Yeah. Like, maybe they're taking a different approach and it's going to become a more Halloween movie after this point. But it actually went, further away from it after that point. And so, anyway, they're living their lives afterwards, and Allison is starting to develop this kind of romance with this young man, and There are strange circumstances involved, and I don't want to give away any more than that, but that is the big crux of the story. Allison is starting this relationship. Laurie is sort of helicopter parenting the whole thing.
Yeah.
And what happens from there, and how does it involve the Michael Myers of it all? That's the way the rest of the movie goes, and that's as much as we can say about the story without spoiling it, outside of saying that I did not like the way the story unfolded.
No.
I thought it was a lot of questionable decisions, one after the other. I was like, why would you choose to do that? Why would you choose to do that?
Yeah.
But wait, why would you choose to do that too? It just was a lot of questionable choices.
Yeah. You know, for me, I was really hoping, like, to go in, like I said, like, you know, this is Michael Myers standing off to Laurie Strode and get all the other crap out of the way.
It's what they've been building toward.
And I appreciated their character building, I guess, but I still didn't want that. I'm like,
Fair.
Like, what's happening here? What am I watching? Am I in the wrong movie? I almost there was a couple times I wanted to, like, ask somebody next to me to make sure. I know that it said Halloween Kills on the big screen when it started, and there were pumpkins, and
I did like the credit sequence.
It was okay. Yeah, it was okay.
It's the most creative of all of them that they've done.
Yeah, it just got a little too repetitive. Like, and then I had to try to think: is that the right pumpkin? Which pumpkin am I looking for?
I did start to. We'll talk about. Let's try not forget
anyway.
about that in the spoilers, because
Anyway,
there is something funny about the sequence. But yeah.
Okay. So, anyways, I don't know. I didn't appreciate the story. I didn't appreciate their decisions. I wanted, if this is going to be the last time I'm going to see these people on the screen doing Michael Myers, that's what I want. And that's not what I got. And if you're looking for something a little bit more, I don't know, on the road, I want to say it felt like kind of like a retrospective of Halloween, right? Like, how could we have done this in a differently, or how can we be better, or how do we victim blame? And it was like the town went against Laurie and anybody else who technically was a victim.
Yeah, the blame has been heftily levied against the Strode family.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like they try to compensate for, like, what's going on in the world today, right? Like the whole, like, the victims need a voice, and, you know, I've been watching a lot of this stuff coming out this month, and it's like, okay, you're victim blaming, you're shaming the person that went through this thing, and they're just accepting it, and, like, I'm getting that in this movie. I'm like, what? No, that's not what this is about. This movie,
that was very clumsily handled.
Yeah, this is supposed to be about
the showdown. Like, let's see what we've been building towards for 2 fucking movies.
Right.
Like, yeah. So,
for how many decades?
Story not good for you. Yeah.
How many decades have we been watching
Only
this?
4. Only 4 plus. You know.
Anyway.
No big thing.
Sorry. I digress. Yeah. I'm a Michael Myers fan, so if you're gonna be mad at me, then fine.
She is. She was the biggest Michael Myers fan on the channel, which is why.
Saying.
Like, I have never been the hugest Michael Myers fan. Once again, I know you guys love hearing me say it. To me, he's just a walking wall with a pointy nail, a pointy knife sticking out. That's to me what Michael Myers is, kind of personalityless. And unfortunately, they really didn't change that at all for this one. And they made some decisions that just were so confusing and disappointing. And some of them very much telegraphed by, theories and stuff ahead of time, if anyone's keyed into any of that. But yeah, the whole story was just disappointing. Let's talk about the acting.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, let's cruise through this. The acting, I thought, was actually a little bit better in this because they had more to chew on, or at least certain actors did.
Yeah.
I liked Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis was good. Andy Matichak as Allison, I think, was better in this than she was in the other 2 films because she had a little bit more to work with. I liked Will Patton a lot, the older gentleman coming back. Yeah. I liked that.
I do like Will Patton.
But everything else was just pretty basic, There was a father figure that I thought was a little corny,
You reminded me of my stepdad a little bit.
I mean, that's fine, but it was...
Your mom's cray-cray, but I got you.
Okay, all right. So you
I
you
related.
vibed with him. You vibed with him.
I
All right.
related, yeah.
And then, the other big presence, I thought that, he acted fine, too. So it's, all in all, the acting wasn't a big hang-up for me.
No, I thought the acting was what kind of saved the whole movie.
Okay.
It was the only thing worth watching.
This is the only thing that kept you intrigued,
Yeah, I mean,
interested.
like, I kind of had to forget that it was a Halloween movie at one point and just,
The
like,
plot is
watch
pretty
it.
nonsensical for a Halloween movie, honestly.
And then, in the third act, it was just, anyway.
Well,
But
let's
the
move on
acting
from
was
the
good.
acting.
The acting was good. What about the cinematography?
The cinematography, the filmmaking, I thought was actually a little bit better in this one than it was in Kills, because I felt like in Kills they tried to go really frenetic with the presentation and
Yeah.
really crazy and shaky and a lot of stuff like that to try and disorient the viewer, and I feel like it fell very, very flat.
Yeah.
This one was, to me, presented like a more straight up Halloween slasher movie, filmmaking wise.
Well, I
it
wouldn't-
wasn't as good as like what John Carpenter did,
No,
but it was more dialed back from what Kills was.
Oh, sure, but it had no. It was no POV though.
True,
There was no POV.
true. No POV. That's pretty standard
And
for a
that's-
Michael
and
Myers
that- and
movie.
that's a trademark for Halloween.
Yeah, that's true.
And we didn't get it. Sorry. No POV here. So
Nope.
you just watched a slasher movie.
Was everything else about the cinematography
It was
okay?
fine. I mean, to me, there was like nothing that
Didn't
jarred
stand
me.
out or
and
anything?
It was fine. But the biggest thing that stood out was like, okay, I'm not getting to like kill in the eyes of a killer. Okay.
I will say the only time the angles really stood out to me, the cinematography, in how it was presented, because it had to be presented in a particular way, was that first scene and how it plays out.
Yeah,
Right,
that
because
was,
there's
that
something,
was
you
really
see something
jarring.
and then something happens like in the foreground and you're just like, and you're like, what? Like, I will say that the first scene, while it didn't sit well with me, it was the most shocking thing that I've seen in a horror movie. Well, outside of Terrifier 2, it's the most shocking thing I've seen in a horror movie this
No,
year.
it was like
It was shocking.
My heart stopped.
It did, mine too. And
I guess.
Again, there's been very few times in my life where I can genuinely say that I had this reaction, and this is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
The Sixth Sense was one of them. This is one of them where I literally went, like I literally gasped and put my hand over my mouth, because when my brain registered what I just saw, I was like, oh no, like, oh God, I just almost inhaled spittle. Yeah, I had that genuine reaction. So one might say that means it was a very successful scene. I suppose you could say that, but in context, in what actually happens, it was a very tough thing for me to sit through.
It was a tough scene. It's a hard moment anyway, but it was well done. And it was probably the most well done thing.
That's what I'm saying. It's the most memorable bit of cinematography there was.
Yeah, because, I mean, all together. Because even moving through the movie as I replayed in my mind, nothing else really, I don't know.
There was no angle where you're like, oh, that's interesting.
Right.
What a cool way to present that.
Yeah.
None of that.
No, that one was the most direct and most impactful way to tell what they wanted to tell there.
Yeah, in that scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rest of it was very...
Weird. I don't know.
I mean, just kind of nothing special. Nothing to write home about cinematography-wise. Sound design-wise, it was fine. Music-wise, the score was okay, but nothing really stood out to me in this. So you had a problem with the music at the beginning that was setting the tone. I actually kind of dug the tone that it was setting at the beginning with the song. I didn't mind it. I was actually jiving with that a little bit. But the rest, I mean, I cannot say that there was any particular, outside of the Halloween theme that is implemented in certain points, there was not really anything. Like, I think John Carpenter did the score for this too, and if I listened to it separately, I'm sure I would really like it, but it did not stand out during the viewing of the film.
No,
I have to say that.
I didn't like the musical choices.
Okay.
I mean, like, especially right out the bat, especially in a Halloween movie, the first song you pick in that intro, other than that,
sets a tone.
Yeah, it sets the tone for the whole movie, and then I'm like, this does not feel like this.
It
belongs
set
in
a
this
very
movie.
odd tone for a very odd
and
movie.
You know what? It wasn't a Halloween movie.
Yeah. So let's talk about the effects.
It was pretty good.
The effects were pretty good.
Yeah.
There was not nearly as many effects in this one as I thought there might be. There was a couple, in the third act, it gets a little more direct effects heavy, and I was a fan of that. At least they didn't cut away for some serious things there. But there were at least 2 or 3 kills that were straight cut away from. Like, we just didn't see them. at all, period. And that was a bit surprising. Like, they were way more restrained in that capacity than I thought they should have been. And even
Especially
the kills
since they waited like 2 acts to show any kills.
Yeah, and even the kills that we got, they weren't really creative. Like, the kill in 2018 where the dude's head was made into a jack-o'-lantern, like, that shit was a really cool kill. Granted, it was done in the comics 10 years beforehand, but it was a really cool kill to see on screen.
Yeah.
There was none of that in this. There was no unique kills, no interesting kills, just...
Yep.
It was just a very, like... As much as it wasn't a Halloween movie, it was a very by-the-numbers Halloween movie. Once it gets to a certain point.
Once it gets to a certain point, yes.
Yeah.
It kind of...
For Act
I mean,
3.
I can't really comment there because I
Fair.
feel like I'm going to give something... I'm going to say something.
Fair enough,
So
fair
I'm
enough,
not going
fair
to comment there. Yeah, I thought when you're talking about the effects, the gore of it, I thought they actually did well when we did finally get it. So I did appreciate those.
Okay.
I did appreciate it.
Fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, in thinking about it, there was perhaps a little bit more than I thought, but it's so much like Scream. It's just a lot of stabby. You know what I mean?
It's a stabby movie.
I know, I get it.
It's supposed to be stabby.
I like when he gets creative, when he starts to have fun with his kills, you know, but...
Yeah, but, you know...
It doesn't happen that often,
We're
unfortunately.
all getting older.
Fair enough, yep.
We're all getting older.
It's harder to play with your food when you're in your 60s, late 60s.
Yeah, 70s, 80s. Who knows?
So, I think that's going to do it for our non-spoiler thoughts, you guys. Obviously, we weren't fans, unfortunately. Yeah. Let us know if you disagree with us and why. We're going to get into some of the spoiler discussion here in a separate review. Mm-hmm. If you're watching this when this review drops. If this drops Thursday, we'll probably drop the spoiler review maybe Saturday or Sunday to give everyone a chance to watch it. It's dropping on Peacock. So if you have Peacock, you can watch the film at home and you don't have to go to the theater and deal with fuckheads sitting
Peacock.
right next to you talking the entire time like it's their goddamn living room. Anyway...
Yeah.
So
watch it on Peacock. Don't go to the theater.
Don't go to the theater.
It's not worth it. You're not gonna get any...
You're gonna do it anyway, but I wouldn't recommend it.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, you're not gonna get anything bonus out of going to the theater.
Not at all. No. This does not need to be a theatrical experience unless you have a real shit sound system at home.
Or you really just want to watch it.
Yeah, if you want to watch it with a crowd, go for it.
And that's
I would recommend going to watch Terrifier 2 this weekend in the theater over this.
Yeah.
Watch this at home. Go support Terrifier 2. They had Terrifier 2 in theaters last weekend for one weekend only, and it did so well that they kept it open one more weekend against this Halloween Ends opening. And personally, after watching Halloween Ends, I think Terrifier 2 is a much better time investment. Much better.
And money investment.
Yes, that too. So that's going to do it, you guys. Thank you very much for watching. Come back and watch our spoiler review in a couple of days. Let us know, though, what your non-spoiler thoughts are in the comments down below.
Try not to hate us too much.
Yeah, don't hate us too much for this. I mean, you know, it is what it is. We don't lie on this channel. We tell it like it is, and unfortunately, this is what it is. So, thank you very much to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you. In fact, I was going to ask Marcia, I think we should try and focus this particular Sunday on catching up on Patreon stuff if we can.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys for supporting the channel. If you want to become a patron, the link is in the description box down below. I'm actually going to be releasing a behind-the-scenes special for Dylan's new Nightmare on the Patreon. Ooh. So if you want to start seeing some behind-the-scenes stuff, that's going to be Patreon exclusive for a little while. So, yeah, if you want to see that, join up. But thank you guys very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And I'm Marcia Parker.
And remember, stay scared.